All right, let's dive in. Today we're going to talk about something really cool, a pattern called Reactive Composite Memory, or RCM for short. And trust me, this is a total game changer for how we build AI systems, especially when it comes to making them smart, efficient, and most importantly, composable.
Okay, so you've got this AI, right? It seems super smart. It knows your name, it remembers your last conversation, or does it? Have you ever stopped to wonder what it actually remembers? How does it pull together your profile, your messages, all that real-time data just to have a single conversation with you? That very question, well, that's one of the biggest headaches in AI today.
So before we can really appreciate the solution, we have to talk about the problem. And honestly, it's a mess. We're going to call it the context chaos problem because that's exactly what it is.
This right here, this is what I like to call the LLM anti-pattern. It's how so many systems are built today, and it's just wild. For every single request you make, the system goes on this frantic scavenger hunt. It fetches your profile, queries your messages, hits a vector database, calls an API. It scrambles to stitch all this stuff together into one giant prompt for the LLM. And then, poof, it throws it all away and starts from scratch for the very next question. It is an incredible, exhausting cycle of waste.
And, this whole ad hoc approach just completely falls apart when you try to scale it. I mean, think about it. There is zero reuse. Every single time, you're paying the full cost to assemble that context. Then there's lineage, or the lack of it. You can't even answer a simple question like, hey, why did the AI know that? It's a total black box. And the killer? Your costs are tied directly to your traffic. 10 times the users means 10 times the work, 10 times the cost. It's not sustainable. No way.
Okay, so enough with the problems. How do we actually fix this mess? Well, that's where this new pattern comes in, Reactive Composite Memory. And I want to be super clear here. This is not just some small tweak or optimization. It is a completely different way of thinking about how AI memory should work.
I absolutely love this analogy. Think about what REST did for web APIs, right? It created a common language, a standard way of doing things that unlocked a ton of innovation. Well, that's the ambition for RCM, but for the entire life cycle of context. It's about creating a standard foundational pattern for how context is born, how it lives, and how it's used.
And here's the absolute core of it. RCM says, stop treating memory like a static database or some dusty filing cabinet you have to rummage through every single time. Instead, think of it as a living, reactive data flow. It's always on, always listening, and the moment one of its sources changes, bam, the memory updates itself automatically. The context is always fresh without you having to lift a finger. Okay, so how does this magic actually work? Well, it all comes down to 3 core building blocks, and these are what make the whole system tick, and more importantly, what gives it that superpower of composability we've been talking about. All right, first up, source signals. These are your raw ingredients, the basic stuff you're cooking with. You can think of them as simple, time-stamped change feeds. A new event happens, a row in a database gets updated, an API spits out new data. Each one of these is a signal that tells the system, hey, something new just happened. They are the heartbeat of the whole reactive system.
Next up, we have context views, and this, my friends, is where the real magic begins. If signals are the ingredients, then views are the recipes. A view is just a simple definition. It doesn't hold any data itself. It just declares how to combine one or more of those source signals to create something useful. And the most important part? These recipes are totally reusable.
And that brings us to our third block, frames. So if signals are ingredients and views are recipes, then a frame is the final cooked meal, plated and ready to serve. It's an immutable version snapshot of a view at a point in time. It's the real tangible context that your AI can actually use. And the coolest part? It comes with a full list of all the ingredients in the exact recipe version used to make it. That's called provenance, and it's a huge deal for auditability.
Okay, so we have our ingredients, our recipes, and our finished meals. Now let's put it all together and talk about the main event. This is the superpower I mentioned, the power of composition.
And I'm not kidding when I say this. Seriously, being able to take these simple, independent building blocks and combine them to create something way more powerful, that is a legitimate superpower. This is the thing that really separates RCM from that old chaotic anti-pattern we talked about earlier.
So let's make this real.
Imagine we create two really simple independent recipes, or views. On the left, we've got user activity. All this recipe does is describe how to get the last, say, 10 events for a given user. Simple. On the right, we have user profile. This recipe just knows how to pull a user's basic info, like their name and preferences. Each one is a small, useful, self-contained building block. But now, what happens when someone, maybe a support agent, needs to see both of those things at the same time? In the old world, you'd probably sigh, go build a whole new custom data pipeline just for them, and waste a week doing it. But with RCM? Nah, you don't build new pipelines, you just compose. Check out how easy this is. We literally just take our user activity view and our user profile view, and we snap them together like Lego bricks. We declare a brand new view, let's call it support context, and its recipe is simple. Use the user activity recipe and the user profile recipe. Just like that, with zero new data engineering, we've created a much richer, more valuable piece of context from the parts we already had.
And this right here, this is the massive payoff. This is what we mean by radical reusability. Because now, that single support context view can feed everybody. The support agent's dashboard? Yep, they just subscribe to it. A high-level analytics dashboard for managers? They subscribe to the same view. A background job that updates a search index? Same thing. You do the work once when the underlying data changes, and you deliver the result to dozens of consumers. The cost is shared, not wastefully duplicated over and over again.
Okay, so the mechanics are cool, but let's zoom out. Why does all of this pattern, this idea of composability, why does it actually matter? I mean, look at this transformation. It's night and day. Before, your costs were a scary, unpredictable mess that shot up with traffic. Now, with RCM, your costs scale with how often your data changes, which is way more stable and predictable. Auditability? It goes from being a painful detective mission through logs to just being a built-in feature of every frame. And data freshness stops being a guess and becomes something you can actually measure and monitor. It really changes everything.
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. Imagine for a second that your system's memory wasn't this chaotic, expensive problem you're always fighting with. What if, instead, it was a reliable, composable, perfectly auditable asset? If you had that, what would you build next? What becomes possible then?